Unfortunately,
sewer?
that is exactly what would happen to me if I got chased. I would definitely be the person who'd be like, "Oh God, I'll open door."
How did door work?
How do door?
Yeah, how did door?
How does one door?
Hello, and welcome to episode 146 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG fan music podcast. I am your host, Mike Salbato, and we are here for the first time in 4 years with a fun Halloween episode for you.
Ooh.
Thank you. So, I'm not really sure what there is to describe about the topic besides creepy Halloween music, so there it is. But what I do want to do is introduce my panel, starting with Hillary.
Hi.
Should we have come up with creepy names? We should have done that.
We didn't.
Hillary.
Hillary.
Of course.
All right. All
That's
right.
a good one.
Also here, as you have just heard, is Wes
Hey, everybody.
and Mario.
Hello. And what's a creepy West name?
I've been searching for years, and I've yet to find it.
I'll be
What-
Mario.
Okay. All right. Wario, Hillary, and to be determined.
We'll find out from the comments if anyone wants to drop in Discord. If you got a good Wes or Wesley spooky name.
Okay. I like it. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for being here. I'm excited about this. We got a lot of fun songs today. Or I guess creepy songs, but that is the point, and they're fun. What? Why am I getting looked at weird? I'm not reading your notes. So yeah, we're here to talk about Halloween music. I can probably guess some of the answers to this, but I always like to ask anyway, so we're going to do that. Let's start with Mario. Wow, what drew you to this episode today?
Yeah, I mean, I love Halloween stuff. I think Halloween's pretty much my favorite holiday. And yeah, I think there's a lot of really creepy music out there. So yeah, I'd just love to be a part of this and spotlight it.
Awesome. How about you, Wes?
I mean, spooky season is best season.
True.
I get very into October
Very true.
and trying to watch as many scary movies as I can and play spooky games when I can. It's gotten a little bit harder in recent years as my kids have gotten old enough to understand what I'm watching and to take an interest in what I'm doing. So watching really over-the-top stuff is more difficult, but it makes things like this really good because a lot of times I can find spooky elements in games that are still okay to play for like kids my kids' age, and any way that I can push them into the dark side early is good for me.
Nice. Okay, how about you, Hillary?
Several reasons. I guess I'll start with I was on the last one and really enjoyed it. Like, what, 4 years ago now?
Our last episode that was titled
Woo! Yeah.
Yes.
And that was a lot of
Perfect.
fun. I too really enjoy spooky season, and I'm an October birthday, so I thought being on all the spooky episodes would be a fun way to celebrate that. Yeah, just really do enjoy it. Wanted to celebrate.
Sounds good to me. Outside of the October birthday, I think my reasons are similar to yours. I mean, besides the fact that I'm the host, so I have to be here. Or I could have had you host, but whatever. I like this. I had a lot of fun with the last one, so I'm looking forward to doing this one. And
Yeah.
my excitement only went up once I saw the songs everyone picked. So
Yeah, we have some interesting picks.
yeah. All right. Well, why don't we get into those? Our first block is going to be Mario and myself. Mario, what are we starting with?
All right, we're starting with The Forest Temple from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time by Koji Kondo.
Okay, yeah. And then after Forest Temple, I have The Surface of the Water from Parasite Eve by Yoko Shimomura. So let's go listen to those two, and we will be back.
All right, so first track, Forest Temple. I so I think there's a really good eeriness to sort of this era of like gaming. I don't know if it's just nostalgia's sake or what it is, but that sort of N64, like their first shot at 3D polygonal, like yeah, it's just creepy vibes all around. And I feel like the soundtracks really reflect that here. Um, so Forest Temple in particular, I feel like it's such an eerie track, but it's so I don't know, it's not necessarily what you'd expect. I guess going into like a forest temple, for example, you kind of expect more of a naturey vibe, um, more of sort of, I guess, like a calming track. Which I mean, I guess this is calming in a sort of way, but I don't know. I think it's a really cool twist on a sort of forest temple, and it also plays the role of being the first sort of dungeon in this post time skip, like Link's an adult and everything. So I think it does a great job of setting that tone, and I feel like that track really reflects that with like the eerie sort of spirit noises later on, and sort of what you're doing in the temple is also chasing these spirits. So it's really cool. I think as a kid I found it really creepy, and right now it's just a great creepy ambiance track, and also just strangely calming in a way too. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic track.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then I feel like there's Parasite Eve track in itself also is very. These are both. I think this grouping's really good because they're both very creepy. I think this is more just like creepy. I think than Forest Temple is. Like
Straight
this is
up
like I don't
creepy.
want to. Yeah, if this started playing like in the middle of my house in the middle of the night, I would just be so freaked out. But yeah, this is like very creepy. So I think this is a very great ambiance track as well, and I think that yeah, it's a really good pairing.
It definitely doesn't have the calming aspect of the Zelda one, right?
Yeah, this is more like anxiety inducing sort of creepiness.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you thought that. Like I was really happy with when I was going through the song selection today, like how to pair things up, and I thought these two paired up really well. Which they're not two games I'd ever pair up normally for any reason.
Yeah.
Despite coming out the same year, no, a year apart. It's kind of weird to think about how this is as an adult, like this is the first temple in the game you go to. Like I think you made such a good point about how it really sets the tone, because like so much of the game, like especially like Hyrule Castle Town and some other parts of the game are really like desolate and horrible in the future. But given that one of the last dungeons you go to is under a graveyard, like that's kind of the music you would expect there, not in the forest temple.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's sort of surprising. But just the repetition and like the dissonance, is that the right word? I hope it's the right word, because I used that word like 3 times today.
Yeah, dissonance is when you have musical tones that are like clashing or
Yeah.
sound jarring to your ears.
I knew that. Yeah, thanks for the definition. It would have just been really embarrassing if we got to the end and you're like, hey, by the way, every time you said that was the wrong way of using it. But it adds this like constant, like kind of like low grade dread to the music, of something that's like kind of watching you or like lurking just out of view. And it's just, there's a lot of great music in Ocarina of Time, but it's one of the ones that's, I think one of the best ones in the game, like just setting a very specific mood.
Isn't this also the dungeon where there are the creepy hands?
Are the hands in this one? In the forest temple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez. Yeah.
Because there's the twisted hallway and all that, and if you take too long to walk through it, the creepy hands pop out.
No,
right. Are they still called wall masters in this one?
I think so, right? Yeah, wall masters.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird to think that
crazy because this is like not even. Yeah, like you mentioned, like the Shadow Temple and all that. This is not even like supposed to be the creepy dungeon.
No.
And it's all the more upsetting the more you think about it, because like Link was just kind of like thrown into adulthood.
Yeah.
He's still like a kid, pretty much.
And this is his home, essentially.
Yeah.
Huh. I gotta play this game again with this in mind, because it's really easy. It's obvious to go back and be like, well, Majora's Mask is the creepy one, but there's more here than I remembered. Also, I want to point this out. Like, I'm going to mention it at the end when we do our like debuts for the show. But did you know this is the first time we've ever had a song from Ocarina of Time on Rhythm Encounter that isn't an arrangement.
It's crazy.
Yeah, every single time before. It's been on like
goodness.
7 or 8 times that we've always had like an arrangement or a symphonic performance or something, but no one's ever brought an original soundtrack song on. I'm actually embarrassed. So thank you for correcting that. No, that's good.
No better time than now. Better
Mhm.
late than never.
That's true. As for Parasite Eve, I really wanted Parasite Eve represented on here because for me, this is about as close to survival horror as I get. You know, it's got a dash of that, but it's still more RPG than straight up survival horror because I don't usually go for those kind of games. But, you know, this one really left an impression on me. And it was between like this one and the really almost grating because it's trying to like, it almost gets on your nerves one towards the end of the game where the thing is chasing you on the boat.
If you brought that on, I would leave.
Yeah. I mean, it sets a mood, but it's like almost obnoxious because
It's
that
so obnoxious.
that sequence is annoying because I forgets how to open doors. So anyway, I went with this one, which I think is the sewer in the sewer.
Unfortunately, that was exactly what would happen to me if I got chased. I would definitely be the person like, oh God, I'll open door.
How did door work?
How to door?
Yeah, how to door?
How does one door?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, obviously Parasite Eve has several potential options for an episode like this, but I like this one because I guess, you know, maybe you and I approached our picks in a similar way, Mario, but it, again, to use dissonant again, it has that sound to it, but this one's even more minimal. You know, like you said, it doesn't have those other tones that give you these other things. Like this is really just like straight up creepy to me. And musically, like I guess you could argue like it isn't really doing much besides like setting this like weird unsettling tone and a mood, but that's what it's meant to do. So I think it pulls it off really well, or really horribly, depending on your point of view, I guess.
Yeah, depending how you see it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you all hit on some great points. I just have a couple things to add for each track. One thing that's so interesting about the Forest Temple track is that kind of, and I don't know if it's the like airy vocals or like the slight high notes here and there, but something in it does kind of give you this effect of like a glimmer of light in the distance or something like that, almost kind of will-o-wispy. I don't know. I would absolutely describe this song as like creepy dark forest.
Yeah.
But then another really fascinating thing about it is how it really seems to inspire the imaginations of people who listen to it. Like there are so many kind of comparisons and imagery that this one conjures. Like I was kind of looking through what people were saying about it. So yeah, one comment was like, this is the musical equivalent when you get lost in IKEA and nobody's around. But there's like other people are talking about like this song feels like someone's following you, but you can't see them. And just like all these really good creepy imageries, but none of them were quite the same. And that's what I find so interesting about this song is that it's kind of like everybody gets their own kind of picture of how it's creepy specifically for them. And the Parasite Eve track, I think my favorite thing about it is how a lot of those like ambient sounds, it sounds like water, like dripping water, or like maybe wind going through the giant sewer pipes or something. I don't know. You get a little bit of that like water sound, and that's really interesting since it's, you know, mostly ambient noise and kind of electronic, but I do kind of get like that water drip effect. And listening to it again after so long, I was also struck by how built up it is. Like there are a lot of different noises happening actually, but it's kind of like a pretty full soundscape, even though there isn't really much melody or music quotes happening.
That's true.
These are both great and really give you the sense of like something's there and you don't quite know what it is.
Yeah, there's an overwhelming sense of dread with both of these that I kind of love. Mm-hmm. Where like the music isn't inherently like threatening, but it hints at there being something you can't see. What this song really reminds me of is exactly how much really creepy stuff there is in Ocarina of Time.
Yes.
And since I was talking earlier about ways to get my kids into things that are a little bit more on the scary side, man, does this fit the bill?
It's a good.
um,
It's just a classic adventure, you know. But then there's this random creepy stuff.
just every once in a while, you'll find a spider with a human face, or
Yeah.
an area like
jeez.
this.
Yeah, right.
Oh god,
Some
that house,
mind-bending temple.
the whole Golden Spatula side quest creeped me out so much as a kid.
Let's not even mention the Redeads.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it's a perfect, like, you can be young and experience this creepiness without it completely traumatizing you, but yeah, it'll creep you out. Absolutely.
Fair.
It definitely will. I'm sure I must have shut off the N64 when I first stepped out into Castle Town, like as the adult part.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
What also amazes me is how musically simplistic the song is, but how much it conveys within that simplicity. It starts with that kind of rattling sound that's very, very unnerving. It lets you know, like, right from the jump that, like, hey, this is not a happy forest.
Right.
But it's those two contrasting notions, one almost sounding like an angelic choir, that really gives the idea of like a sacred forest, but that eerie, I'm not sure the right word for the rising notes that repeat, that eerie, like, lighter, almost mocking tone that works in contrast, that dissonance that comes in with those two kind of competing for each other over which one's the main
big
melody.
Contrast.
It really does give the impression of, like, yes, this place is or was safe, but it certainly isn't anymore. There's something lurking underneath the surface, as it were. Absolutely love that track. And I'd completely forgotten about it somehow, since I haven't played Ocarina of Time since I was young. So that was a really nice reminder of, like, oh god, I gotta go play Ocarina again.
It's a good one.
As for Parasite Eve, I mean, I love this game. It's so unique in so many ways. It does a lot of things that RPGs just don't generally try to do. And one of those is, like, this very, like, almost Silent Hill soundscape horror motif that's going on in the surface of the water. The thing that really creeps me out the most about it is how that underlying tone that almost sounds like, a voice crying out from deep in a cave or underwater or something like that permeates the whole thing, that takes this from, like, creepy ambiance to, like, oh god, is there something actually there? I absolutely adore that. I think this is, like, potentially one of the most, like, straight down the middle, this is definitely horror songs on this entire list.
Mm-hmm.
If I contradict myself later, it's only because I was right both times.
Well, then it's not a contradiction.
Exactly. Yeah, I can't be in trouble for being too right too often.
There you go. And I'm sorry if I'm talking over you, Wes.
You're good.
Yeah, this would not at all be out of place in, like, a Resident Evil or a Silent Hill or what have you whatsoever.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of Parasite Eve. Like, it is an RPG and it is a survival horror, and it doesn't necessarily sacrifice on either front for the other. Anyways, love this track.
Oh, great. All right. Well, we started off pretty strong with our, like, creepy vibes here. So maybe we'll lighten the mood a little bit in a strange sort of way. Yeah.
Sure.
All right. You're up first, Hillary.
All right. So my next pick, we're gonna fight off the creepiness slightly with my pick, which is Heart of the Idol, from a Gabriel Knight arrangement album called Gabriel Knight Synths of the Fathers. The original track was Robert Holmes. The arranger on that album is Space Quest Historian.
All right. And then, I'm excited about this one. What is your first track, Wes?
A track I can't believe hasn't been on Rhythm before. Amusement Park from NieR Automata by Keigo Hoashi. Most people know the other composer on the track, but there were actually two composers who did about half and half of the soundtrack for NieR Automata. So keep an ear out. This one's great.
Awesome. All right, let's go listen to Heart of the Idol and Amusement Park.
let's get back to it with Heart of the Idol. So just a little bit of context on this track. The Gabriel Knight series is by nature a little bit spooky. Essentially, the first game takes place in New Orleans, where Gabriel's from, and is all about voodoo murders. Second game is about werewolves, and the third game is sort of about vampire lore. So very fitting for the season. This track is from the first game, and it's this was Basic Quest historian did is he kind of mashed up 2 tracks from the game, but the kind of upbeat feel that you hear in this one, or at least a little bit more like driven feel from it, is because this is at a point in the game where Gabriel and company have kind of figured out what is going on a little bit, and Gabriel at least finds out about his role as a Schattenjäger, which is a German term that means shadow hunter. So he's basically like an undead slayer, essentially. And so he's a little bit more informed. It's kind of at the point where the story's turning around, and he's like, the group's sort of feeling like they have some hope of like fighting back and maybe preventing more people from being murdered, getting to the bottom of the voodoo mystery. And I think there's some creepiness to this track, but I also think there's a little bit of that like momentum, that maybe that little bit of conflict, like something is fighting the creepiness. And I really adore the very synthy take on the soundtrack. I think it's incredibly fun and kind of highlights that tone. So that's why I picked this version, this arrangement. And I think I just wanted something in the episode that represents that point in a lot of good horror where maybe the unknown is becoming a little bit more known, and there's like a little bit more of direct conflict, and there's like at least an opportunity to maybe act against the horror. So that's Heart of the Idol. Amusement Park is an incredibly fantastic song. I'm glad it's finally on the show. I love the whimsical but also creepy kind of scales they have going in the background. That definitely screams like creepy carnival or toys to me. But it contrasts with the beautiful chaos language and the melody and the airiness of that. And if I really let myself listen to the music outside the context of the game, I get this cool feeling of like, is this really pretty melody helping against the creepiness, or is it lulling me into a false sense of security?
Yeah.
And I just love the instrumentation in this piece so much too. Just the combination of like the piano, vocals, the sort of percussive scales that are doing the like creepy carnival toy part. All of it comes together, especially when it switches over to the driving strings at about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Like, it's just such a dynamic piece. I love it.
Every time I think I have a good handle on Sierra adventure games, another one that I've never heard of pops up. And this is maybe the first time I've seen one and gone like, good Lord, I need to play this.
It's so good.
The concept is so right on point.
Have we talked about the voice cast?
There he goes. I'm like, why did you not mention that to Wes?
I googled it real quick and saw Tim Curry. I didn't even see the rest. That was all I needed.
Yep. And Mark Hamill.
Oh my goodness. Mark Hamill is such an amazing voice actor.
And it's Tim Curry being Louisianan.
Tim Curry doing accents might be my favorite thing. He saved so many, like, otherwise, maybe mid-tier things by trying to be Russian or...
Right, exactly. Oh my goodness. Anyway, sorry to derail.
No, this was a worthy derail. If we're going to get anyone to play these games besides just me, that's going to be out, right?
Yep.
But also this track is freaking amazing. I realize that it's a remix, and I'm not going to hear anything this driving necessarily in the game. The composition of it all is really great too, in that kind of old school. It's a bit of noir that you can sense under the noir and almost like cyberpunk kind of drive with the synths. That driving main melody that's very synth heavy really feels super cyberpunk, or it feels like old school pixel art, you know, kind of driving detective. Like it very much fits into the noir feel I get off of just my cursory study of this game.
Honestly, what I'm picturing with that is like the noir is like what is in fact happening in the story, and then like the super synth, like cyberpunk, is what Gabriel thinks about himself. That's kind of what I'm picturing in my head.
Oh, I love that. And what amazes me is that this is such like a driving, danceable ass song, but it still gets that, like, it's so well thematically appropriate, because the like driving clap percussion gives this really oppressive vibe to the whole thing. And all of the synths are these weird staccatoed, like really unnerving through lines. These are like the main melodies being driven through here tend to be a little creepy, even if it could lean into sci-fi because of all the synths, whatever. But no, this is, you have in one fell swoop convinced me that I need to play these games. Be on the lookout for a retro review coming in a few months on RPGFan.com.
If you want to tag team it and cover the whole series, I would do.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
This might be the birth of a moment here on live on the podcast.
Well, good. Then I'll finally get to see the games. I never played them either.
Oh, that sounds like a blast. Yeah, this has absolutely sold me as like the next thing I need to play, especially as like a lover of things like urban fantasy, Dresden Files, stuff like that.
This will fit that bill so much.
This hits so dead on. As for my own pick, like I said before, I was shocked we haven't had Amusement Park from NieR Automata in here. It is definitely one of my top 3 tracks from the entire game. And it's really cool to see, to be able to give a little bit of love to Keigo Hoashi, who, you know, Okabe gets a lot of the credit for this wonderful soundtrack. Well deserved, but Hoashi did half of this thing nearly. And this track in particular, one of my favorite in there, you know, you wouldn't know that there were 2 composers because they weave in so seamlessly. They use the same motifs. They use similar instrumentation. It works so well. I always loved this one because it works really well as like an action scene, but the whole time, like, your mood is so deeply affected by the music playing. Like, this is dour and down, and it evokes that feeling of someone trying to cheer you up when you're inconsolable. Like, when someone says very nice things to you, but you're just in a hole and you can't be pulled out of it, this is what their consolation sounds like. It's like they're trying to put on a joy to the world circus for you, and all you can hear is this, like, yeah, I understand what you're going for, but it's just not having the same effect. It's just enhancing what I'm feeling right now. And all that mixed together, combined with, you know, the obvious driven phobia of clowns that lives deep within many hearts, I feel like this hits both of those spots and goes between melancholy and absolutely creepy over and over again. And the fact that this song starts out at that low melancholy but builds into something both more action oriented, more like driving, while also kind of more oppressive. Like, I think that's an absolutely beautiful way to build a song, especially with the tone of NieR, where the whole thing is melancholy throughout. You've got to just accept that this is an imperfect world that you're living in, and this, you know, kind of twisted, corrupted version of what is usually considered joyful music is so good. I'm sure other people have more to say, so I'll leave that one at that.
Yeah, no, this soundtrack's great for Amusement Park. Yeah, I definitely have that clown phobia in me. So that definitely hits all those beats there. But yeah, just the way it does build up from that sort of slow start to like when you explore more of the level and see more of like how, I guess, it's interesting because obviously the amusement park is very decrepit and all this, but you still have that sort of life there, quote unquote, with like the robots and everything, and you see more of that as the song itself also builds up, and you see more life or motion in the song as well. Like, it's just an interesting parallel there. But yeah, no, the soundtrack's great. They hit all the notes that, yeah, all those creepy clown sort of undertones and all that's there as well. Something that's supposed to be playful and joyful and entertaining is instead this sort of creepy, twisted version of it. Yeah, no, the soundtrack's a great one. And then the first one, I also wanted to comment on Heart of the Idol, because that's, honestly, it's a really good banger. I think it's a good sort of, or both these songs honestly recognize there's more to, at least for the purposes of this episode, there's like more to Halloween than just like the creepy ambiance aspect of it. There's also like the banger sort of, like this first one could be like playing in an underground rave or something. It's sort of
Halloween party. It's the Halloween party song.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah. So it also captures that part of the holiday. So yeah, no, that first one was really cool. I think, yeah, it's a great track.
I don't think I'm ever gonna get over the brilliance of that album, by the way. I mean, just a little comment just on the naming of it. I mean, the album is good.
Synths of the Fathers.
Yeah, because the game is Sins of the Fathers, and like the arranger's like, how about we do Synths of the Fathers? I'm like, oh my god. It's just like, it's so simple, but it's so great.
That is so good.
I don't know how much more I can add to the song itself, but I like what you said, Mario, because that's along the lines of something I was going to say on it, is that I like this one, and I can't stop making this comparison in my head. If you know the Nightmare Before Christmas soundtrack,
Ooh.
and if you know the deluxe version of the soundtrack that has extra arrangements at the end, basically, Hillary, I feel you came into this episode and looked at the track list, like, here's what we have. Okay, there's all like the regular Halloween music. Like, I don't want this regular This Is Halloween. I want Marilyn Manson's This Is Halloween. Because like Mario said, this is more like the party.
I want the bonus party version.
Yes. But I like that. I love that because it like you said, like it represents a different aspect of the holiday and musically that we have. Different than most of what we have here today. Yeah, it fits so well, but very different from the others. I don't even know how well it really fits with Amusement Park, but it was like the closest pairing I could get. But it's a lot of fun. Like
it's a good pairing.
The whole album is it's so great. It's just such a good like mood setter.
It is really, if you need to get stuff done. I mean, this has been one of my go-to, like, all right, I'm going to do the thing albums for a while.
Yeah. Well, because like, I know you just found it like a couple years. Did it come out a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Or is that just when we found it?
No, that's when it came out. 2022.
2022. Yeah. It's so fun. Amusement Park. Oh boy. What a great pick, Wes. Thank you. There's so many moments and quests and story beats in NieR that just on their own, there's no Halloween aspect to them, but they're just like scary, weird, or really you could argue fit the vibe of today's episode anyway. But the Amusement Park, like the song, but also just the entire area is incredible. Every part of it is just so weird, or like, if not downright like incomprehensible. Like this weird juxtaposition of machines celebrating. I have quotes around celebrating and hanging out, but then they're also, some of them are chasing you around with a tank that's decorated like it came out of Disneyland's Electric Light Parade. And the song strikes this weird balance so well, like with those like weird like little tinkling bells, and there's some other musical choices that sound like a somber version of music that's trying to be fun but doesn't quite understand how. Which it's that's what the machines are doing, right? They're trying to learn and present this thing that they don't really get themselves.
And it's so cool how they represent that musically throughout the whole soundtrack. This the machines are having some like knowing of what a tone or emotion is supposed to be, but not quite having the ability to capture it. Yeah,
so like in trying to capture it, it ends up taking on this like feeling of sadness and longing kind of, and like faux celebration, or like the closest they can come to representing it. And that's the park itself. Like the mood of that and the atmosphere is so well done. And moments like this where the music, the soundtrack, and the game are so perfectly in sync. I mean, a lot of times on Rhythm Encounter, like I end up talking about the context of a song, how it's used in game, why it's used. Like sometimes I focus on that more than the music, but it's because of things like this. I love when that happens, when it's done so well and it fits the mood and exactly what it's doing. Like it's so important to it too, because like, can you imagine like playing through this with any song but this now? Because like it's so tied in my head. Like you couldn't not have that music there.
It would just be so easy to get that wrong
Yeah,
too. Like
yeah.
that whole game could so easily be so wrong with the wrong music.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that those are the longest notes I took on anything today, even longer than my own picks, because I have lots of feelings about that game. So yes, I'm really happy that we had that song today. Thank you.
I like this block a lot.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
And I like all the blocks. We have so many killers.
We
in
do.
here,
We do.
Oh man, this is the only one that introduced me to a new game that I have to play. So I got to give some love to it.
Well, speaking of great music, though, are you ready to talk about your next song, Wes?
Oh, I'm another one. Both of mine were picks that I couldn't believe were open.
I'm happy. I love when that happens, though, because like this is the episode for this song, especially.
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
This is the definitive Halloween video game song, as far as I'm concerned. It's the Lavender Town theme. From this one in specific is Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen by Junichi Masuda. It is beautifully Halloween.
Oh yes. And then Mario, what's your second song today?
Mine is also very Halloween. The freshly glazed Porxie from Final Fantasy XIV, Shadowbringers, and it's by Masayoshi Soken, Nobuo Uematsu, and Daiki Ishikawa.
Nice. All right, let's go listen to Lavender Town and Freshly Glazed Porxie.
So, how many rumors and think pieces and treatises and remixes have been written on the topic of the Lavender Town music? Every time there's some urban myth video about Pokemon, this is the track that's playing underneath it, guaranteed. And it's because it's so eerie, and it just feels so wrong. That doesn't feel like this is the way that music is supposed to be played. It's like they composed something and played it backwards or something. It's got that same kind of sound quality of listening for the hidden satanic messages on a vinyl record. But this plays in Lavender Town, where the ghost tower is. This is where you find so many ghost Pokemon. Hence the creepiness, and hence why it fits so well as kind of a Halloween theme. It starts with just that single note playing, and it's more pronounced maybe in the original Game Boy version, but people listen to podcasts with headphones, so I was not going to bring the original Game Boy version. But I feel like this one really keeps the vibe, but is more of like a thoroughly composed. It really does. So many of the Pokemon remakes really do keep the spirit of the original and just update the instrumentation to match the platform that they're being produced on. So I really love this version of the Lavender Town music. And trust me, I went through like 5 different remakes looking for the perfect version to bring here. Not only does it have that running kind of ticking clock sound running, kind of counter to the actual main melody, which just feels, like I said, like a song being run backwards, or a nice happy song that you play in a minor key and it becomes something really unsettling. I think this is one of the most memorable tracks in Pokemon, outside of like main themes, kind of out there, because it's maybe the most pronounced thing about it is that it totally doesn't fit the game that it's in. It still feels distinctly Pokemon because of the instrumentation, but there's nothing else this creepy in that game. It's a game about young children going out and exploring the world. It's another one of those things that I love as something that, like, kids need a little bit of fear in their lives, a little bit of creepiness, a little bit of something to kind of round them out and make them more full people, and make them handle fear in the small doses when they're young, so that they can handle it in the bigger doses when they get older.
You gotta, well, I don't want to say habituate, but like you have to learn how to respond, right?
Exactly. And stuff like this is like the perfect way to teach kids. It's like when you do a Halloween episode of a kid show and it's just a little creepier than you think it should be.
Yes. Maybe we overdid it there.
Maybe back when I was a kid we overdid it a few times.
Yeah, fair.
Man, who would have thought Ernest Scared Stupid was going to give so many people in my generation nightmares, right?
We've seen a couple reviews semi-recently about like old Goosebumps episodes, and like every once in a while it's like maybe they went a little far on that one.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The amount of work R.L. Stine put in on this very concept is not insignificant.
Correct.
But next up we have another one, maybe even more so, like this is the Halloween song in freshly glazed Porxie. Had to give my enunciation. Yeah. I almost slipped a little bit of the Tim Curry into that one.
Easy to type, harder to say.
Yep. Accurate.
It starts absolutely like, I don't remember the context that this comes in on, so I'm hoping Mario you can help me, because I've played so much Final Fantasy XIV that I don't remember where
it's
a lot of pieces
Dungeon
of
song.
Okay.
It's Matoya's Relic.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because this starts out in just an absolutely like, our Halloween event is going on, here we go, let's dive in. But from there it goes into like, it's like the Halloween that you remember as a kid, where it's got that little spooky, bouncy sound to it, but also it's overall kind of like this driving, semi-positive song. It's the Halloween character that's a little bit goofy, but is still a monster. It's Hocus Pocus. It's Halloween Town.
It's very Hocus Pocus.
It's very much like child-friendly Halloween, but there's still some stuff that's gonna hit pretty well. Little bit Danny Elfman, maybe even.
Yeah.
It makes me think Tim
Not bad,
Burton
yeah.
at times when the horns come in.
A big reason why I picked this is one, it's like one of the most Halloween songs I've ever heard. I feel like
Yeah.
this is a good representation of that sort of angle of Halloween too. The like sort of playful, like hocus pocus Halloween town, like sort of Halloween. And I feel like that's a very cute side of Halloween too. Like there's a lot of really more than like, I guess different from like the party vibe, I guess, but more just like the cute like jack-o'-lantern carving and stuff like that, you know? Like I think there's a very cute version of Halloween that I thought would be good to represent here. And this song also just like feels so Banjo-Kazooie to me.
Oh,
It feels very like going
Yeah,
to,
that bouncing
like that
tuba
bounciness
part.
to it. And like the witch and everything. Like it feels very, yeah. So yeah, no, I think this is just a great track. It does give very Halloween event vibes too. So I can definitely see that. But yeah, it plays in a fun dungeon. It's a very cute sort of homage to this sort of Halloween. So yeah, it's a great one. It's fun. And
Honestly, if you told me this was an unused Kingdom Hearts 4 Nightmare Before Christmas level track, I would have absolutely believed you.
Exactly, like it plays very like that sort of like Disney Halloween sort of vibe.
Yeah, I am so happy you mentioned Disney because that is the absolutely 100% perfect segue into something I've been like dying to mention about that song.
Go for it.
Which is, I think some of the reason it might hit us as nostalgic is because it does have that orchestral flair. Like it's got some of the same kind of eerie, like kind of tones as Lavender Town, but because of that orchestral flair, I think they really made some effort to draw some inspiration from the Sorcerer's Apprentice in Fantasia.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you've got that bouncy part.
That's a good
Sounds like the lower part in Sorcerer's Apprentice that kind of like there's a part in the song that sounds like that, and also you get a little bit of Matoya's theme in Freshly Glazed Porxie, and that the instrument on that, if I'm not mistaken, sounds like a low wind instrument, particularly a bassoon, which is also the instrument that plays the melody in Sorcerer's Apprentice. So I think there's some like really cool kind of like callbacks and some musical referencing going on to kind of evoke that idea of like Disney Halloween or like Disney creepiness in that one.
I'm glad you mentioned bassoon so much
I
because
didn't realize that.
that also, in a way, foreshadows our next episode of Rhythm Encounter.
Oh yeah,
But we'll talk about that at the end.
my notes. So does
Soon encounter.
percussion makes me think of Sorcerer's Apprentice. So does bassoon on Matoya's theme. Broomsticks? ? That's my notes.
You just wanted to mention the broomsticks, but you weren't sure what to say about them.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
Matoya has broomsticks. Sorcerer's Apprentice has broomsticks.
Yeah. I mean, that's maybe the least subtle inspiration of all of that.
Yeah.
It's very, yeah. But yeah, no, this is, yeah. It's a very cute track, very whimsical. I like the dungeon it plays into. I think it's a very cute sort of walkthrough as well. But yeah, it's a great track. And just about Lavender Town that I did want to mention. Yeah, there's so many versions of Lavender Town that, yeah, it's so... I feel like the FireRed LeafGreen version is so interesting because it kind of brings a... I don't know, I guess it's more just... I don't know, I guess just like a... Not necessarily... Maybe it's just not the... having the ringing in your ears when you listen to the original version, but it feels a bit more like calm, I guess. I don't know if calm's the right word. I don't think it is, but something there. I guess I'm just trying to figure out what word or feeling I'm trying to describe, but it's an interesting version of it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
definitely. But yeah, very creepy song.
I think I get what you mean, Mario, because
like-
I was noticing some of the contrasts, like, and near the beginning, I had something in my notes about like the percussion and the musical phrasing made me think of something like a little bit more somber, maybe is the calm-related
somber
word.
is probably the better word. Yeah.
Almost like almost like kind of a funeral procession, actually, with that percussion near the beginning. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that too. I feel like, yeah, but the original version's also very. This also captures that unsettlingness as well, as does, and I feel like the original version dials that up a lot too. But I do think it's a good call to not make our listeners who are probably listening to this on headphones hear that. Yeah, there's a very many creepypasta about Lavender Town.
Yeah, I really like the way you describe that, Wes. Like, if you watch any video on like Pokemon, like weird theories and stuff, it's going to be Lavender Town.
It's absolutely the one song that they all
I mean, I
use.
don't watch those, but I mean, I can totally see it.
Yep.
My daughter has in the past. She's a big Pokemon maniac, so she dug into some of those theories.
It's really funny to me, like listening to it now. Is like I don't recall this song being really creepy when I played. So like, did I just like block the memory of it? Because I mean, I played Pokemon Blue like when it came out, and not since then. So maybe it's just been too long. But I'm like, I feel like I would have remembered being creeped out by it. So I don't know. Maybe there's some weird repression going on there.
We were too focused on finally getting the ghost Pokemon.
Maybe. But, you know, this one reminds me of like our first block today where it's like unsettling in this like really kind of like low key way, except this one is more like upfront about it. You know, it's less, hey, there may be ghosts out there, and more Gengar is now licking your face. Like I'm glad, like everyone said, like this is probably a safer one to listen to now on headphones and at higher volume, but it still has those like kind of shrill tones and like weird clangs, and it's just everything comes together in this way that just makes you a little weirded out, sort of uncomfortable, which is obviously what they were going for. So I think it works well, and I like this arrangement too, the remake one. Every once in a while we have some people bringing on like arrangement Pokemon tracks. I think Geo had one. I think Geo had Anvil Town earlier this year, if I'm getting that right. But I think you're right. Like a lot of times when they do these arrangement musics, they're very, very true to the original, but the updated instrumentation is nice. But it never feels like they like miss the point of the song. As for 14, I always love talking about Final Fantasy 14 on here. And Matoya. I'm also happy that they bring her back on occasion. You know, I was like, this seems like a really big thing that they're doing in Heaven's Word, introducing this character. And I'm glad it wasn't just like, well, she's just limited to that expansion. And like everyone said, like it has that fun, you know, classic like witchy sound like you might hear in like an old movie or a cartoon. I don't want to like retread too much. It just turned out that Hillary and I both immediately thought of Fantasia, which of course is a clear inspiration in general for Matoya with her like walking brooms and stuff. And despite me pairing this with Lavender Town in this block, I think this is maybe the most fun track we have here. Just that sound, like that more happy Halloween sound is just so much fun. And it really only hit me when doing my notes that it's not just like Fantasia, because of course that's the first thing I think of, despite the fact that I've never actually watched that movie to the end because I watched it when I was a kid and something in there scared me and I could not finish the movie. I don't know what it was anymore.
I'm still convinced it was like the big demon guy in the Bald Mountain segment.
It might have been. I don't know. I gotta watch it. Like we have it. I've never finished that one. I've never even watched Fantasia 2000. But beyond that, like I still got the Disney thing because less so Fantasia, but I can't hear this now without thinking of Sword in the Stone. The music when Merlin is like packing up his house and all the furniture is like hopping around the room. It just that bassoon march of this one really, really calls that to mind, and that's a very, very fond memory. Not really Halloween, I guess, that reference, but
magic.
Yeah, it just has that cool like magic to it. So I don't know. I think I talked more about my comparisons and inspiration here, but for me, it tapped into some really fond memories. So that's one of the reasons I enjoyed it. Like when I heard this in the games, I haven't done this dungeon in so long. I don't think I went through it thinking
It's the same.
Yeah, I don't think I went through a thing. I was like, oh, this is kind of Halloween-y. But you know, hearing it again in that context, like, yeah, what a perfect pick.
Yeah, I wish it popped up on roulette more often.
Right? There's so many dungeons, like it's so rare to get certain ones, you know, because there's so many now.
Yeah, it makes sense. There's so many.
Yeah. Well, now I want to go play. But we have one more block to get through, so Let's go with that. So, as I sometimes do on the show, I like bringing on like songs that are way too short. So I end up like grouping them together. So my last pick is two short songs from Chrono Trigger. So it is Magus's Castle and Confusing Melody. And I'll explain why I paired them together. And then Hillary, you have our 8th song today.
Yes, I'm getting more somber with my last pick, which is the Firelink Shrine from Dark Souls, composed by Motoi Sakuraba.
Yes. Oh, yes. I guess I could have also mentioned that my songs were composed by Yasunori Matsuda. But now I did, so now we're covered, right? Right.
Yes.
Cool. Let's go listen to Magus's Castle and Confusing Melody and Firelink Shrine. All right. So again, I use both of these because these are very short, especially the first one. And Confusing Melody is very minimal of a sound, but I wanted them together because they tell this really great story together. Like in my head, like they have to be paired up, you know? It starts off Magus's castle, like coming face to face with this like really imposing and daunting tower. Like so much so that they did this cool like panning up. Like they wanted you to understand how the scale of this thing was so big that it didn't actually fit on your screen. And you're hearing about this like this wizard in the tower and all the things going on in the Dark Ages like for hours, like leading up to this. So like there's a lot of narrative buildup. And then of course you get this great short little piece, just like really, really accentuating like what you're getting into. It's such a huge moment at that point in the game. And then you go inside and we switch over to like Confusing Melody, and like almost all the sound falls away because there's so little to this. I mean, most of the song is just this one unnerving, unwavering tone with like these weird distant noises. Like, is it meant to be like weird laughter in the background? It's so strange. But the mood and the atmosphere is just so perfect for me. It's just so like off kilter. And, if we did a block with 3 songs, I definitely would have tossed this into the first one. It does really fit with the Forest Temple and the Parasite Eve song, I think, because of just not only like the minimalness of it and the creepy factor, but also just how effective it is at like setting that mood. Also, a small side note on this: we've had a potential topic for Rhythm Encounter for so long. I forget who made it, of like songs that were used only once in a game, and I think that's really hard to like remember and make sure that something was only used once. But unless I'm misremembering here, I don't think that Magus's Castle sting is used ever again, because where else would it be used, right?
Isn't it also in the battle with him?
Well, I mean, that aspect of it, I mean this exact 30-second track.
Okay.
Like that track, yeah. No. But yes, it does include part of his battle music. Yep. But that actual track of the introduction, I think it's a one-time little introduction.
Right.
So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And then switching gears from unsettling to sort of peaceful but mournful.
Peaceful?
I mean,
question mark.
There is musically there is, to me, there is a little bit of that. Obviously, if you played the game, you aren't going to think that. See, maybe that's helps me in this case to get the mood wrong because I haven't played.
No, I mean relatively.
Yeah, but
relative piece.
Oh, it's such a great piece though. Like, I almost second guessed myself in the structure of this episode when doing my notes, because I'm like, maybe this should have been paired with something else, because it's not unsettling in quite an overt as the Chrono Trigger music is. But this was just a case of a song being so beautiful, and maybe peaceful isn't right. Like, it sort of seems like a sense of relief given what the area is. Like, the world that you're in is so harsh, right? So like you get a bit of a break being here. So like, to me, it's like, it's easy to hear this from like a sadder perspective. Like maybe something you would hear at a funeral. It's like somber, but semi-safe. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but I don't know. I enjoy it a lot. I'm sure you have a better way of describing it.
I don't know about that. But I can launch into it.
Yeah.
So I'll start with Firelink Shrine and then go back to Chrono. So this music is basically in the background of your relative safe area in Dark Souls. And there is an elegance to it, and there is the melody is very slow and very somber, and you do get this kind of like surface feeling of peace, or at least quiet. But one thing that this song does well, and why I wanted this particular song to come on to represent kind of maybe that like more somber, more reflective side of Halloween, is because you do get the sense of just kind of like maybe distant, but tension and danger, even if it is far off. And I think that fits with the game beautifully. And there is also, I think, like a touch of loss or of something being gone, because part of all the Souls games is you're in this kind of like dead end or decaying world. But one thing I want to highlight about this track, aside from just being very, very beautiful, it definitely raises my blood pressure. And I think the thing that does that and causes the tension is actually the use of like silence and pauses in the melody. I think it's kind of cool, but I think it's just as effective as some of the other ways we've seen music cause kind of like creepiness. Is just I don't quite want to say halting, but there's something about this melody that's tense. Sometimes it's in kind of like shorter bursts or like it's incomplete. So when you're listening to it, it's absolutely gorgeous, but you're always kind of like on the edge of your seat, like, well, where'd the melody go? Or like, wait, what's happening? That I think is just really cool and really masterfully done, and absolutely not the style that you would hear in a lot of like Sakuraba's other work.
Yeah, I think this gets overlooked a lot when people are like, it's like, oh, so much of his stuff sounds the same. It's like, you understand that he also did things like this though. So I think it's good to talk about that.
It's so cool and fascinating the way he uses like pauses in this song to build up the tension.
Yeah.
And I guess going back to Magus for a minute, I love everything about the Chrono soundtrack, and I think this is a good example of some of the tense moments. And I love the little call out to Magus's battle track. If you didn't mention that, I was going to. But also, I don't know, that pairing is great, and it definitely together creates the impression of something that's imposing, but also kind of like a little bit like a wasteland or a cursed castle.
Yeah.
I guess I'll throw in my description of that sound effect in the second part, which is, how do I describe it? A laughing Halloween decoration with a dying battery.
Oh, that laughing sound? Yeah.
That's actually really accurate.
I love that.
It's that tone of laugh that could be mistaken for a cry.
Yes!
Like how when a Halloween toy is dying, you're like, oh, are they happy or are they in pain? Are they creepy or are they high?
Okay.
I love that you thought of that.
It's like early beta version of Kefka's laugh.
Yeah, seriously. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I feel like I was just gonna say about Chrono Trigger just does such a good job of, I guess this is kind of along the lines of what we're saying with Ocarina of Time, but Chrono Trigger balances so many different tones so well. And yeah, I think this song and this whole section of the game, the whole atmosphere in the castle really kind of exemplifies that, but it balances so many different tones really well.
I'm gonna go a little bit topic to topic here, but I've got to bounce back on the Sakuraba train because I am what I'd call a fake Sakuraba hater. Where I fully understand the arguments of all of his stuff sounds the same, because especially when you look within the Troels series, which is kind of one of his biggest works, bodies of work.
Also, hang on.
Yeah.
Anyone listening, Wes is very aware that it's the Tales series and not.
What did I say?
Trails.
Oh my god!
I knew what you meant, but I'm like, I don't want anyone correcting us.
I wasn't wrong. I was just mistaken. Is mistaken less bad than wrong?
You weren't
doesn't
wrong.
matter.
You misspoke, right? You knew it. You knew.
Yes.
You knew.
Trust me, I know the
You
Tales
know in your
series
heart of
very well.
hearts.
Everyone's okay. Because that's a series where, for the most part, it's really hard to distinguish the soundtrack of one game from another, unless you're a really big fan and you really love those games and you're deeply into it. Most songs from one would fit into almost any other Tales game. However, that is not necessarily the reason that I'm a fake Sakuraba hater, is that does not necessarily reflect on his ability as a composer. Because then you listen to something like Dark Souls and you realize that there is a whole different world that he is capable of. He just isn't given the opportunity to do as often. Even in things like Baten Kaitos, there are a few tracks in there, like the battle theme, that are unlike other things that Sakuraba composes. And I think as many of those things are out there that stand out, that show the range that he actually has, none really do it better than Dark Souls. Dark Souls is the ultimate refutation of Sakuraba's a one-trick pony. And Firelink Shrine is such a good track, because a lot of times the music in Dark Souls falls into either nearly ambiance or really big epic battle. And this one is this nice middle point where, yeah, it's very ambient. It's very much evocative of a place, but there's an actual melody running through. The strings actually manage to elevate and be really, really front and center. And not only is it somber, but it is that little bit of creepiness, that little bit of, this is a world gone wrong. This place is not as it should be, and it's almost mournful of what was lost, while simultaneously evoking what it is today. I absolutely adore a lot of the Dark Souls soundtrack, but this one especially, I think, is an ideal pick for this.
We got to get that like sad Halloween in there too.
Exactly. This is
Sad Halloween.
I like that we're covering so many different parts of Halloween, you know?
Yeah.
Sad Halloween, which I'm now going to name my next mixed drink I create. Offer people a sad Halloween, and it's just like bourbon.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's the sad Halloween. It's
I was
just
going to say,
bourbon.
if this was an actual recipe, like I want you to share, because I want to know what it is.
I'll let you know when I make it. It's going to be very strong on the whiskey burn, though. I'll give you that. Meanwhile, though, how can I not give love to Chrono Trigger? Genuinely one of my favorite games of all time. Also one of the most emotional games of all time, for reasons I will eventually write about on the site. But this specific track, like the first track, very much, you know, that Magus through line, but with that air of, like, you know, kind of wind behind it, like that. The melody of Magus's track is kind of floating on the wind, which makes it a lot creepier. Yeah, funny, given the track name, right?
I wrote something in my notes about the black wind howling. Sorry to interrupt. I'm like, oh yeah.
No, hit right on it, and it's perfect because, you know, there is you know, the main version of Magus's theme is this really driving kind of battle theme, but this one really evokes what Magus is like as an entity. And I think that throughout the game, this and riffs on this make Magus seem to be the big deal that he should be. They make him this creepy, overarching vampiric figure. You know, it's almost on the level of like a Count Dracula theme, when he's overlooking his domain and watching the heroes running themselves ragged, trying just to get to him, when he knows full well they're not going to be able to do anything once they get there. It's a man in total control, but just kind of existing, knowing full well. I love that. And then the second track is very much, I mean, it's Haunted Castle vibes, right? Right. Like, if I were going into a proper haunted house and I heard this going over, it would definitely put me in the right mood to be scared out of my socks.
Yep.
There's not much more to be said on it for me, though, because the broken Halloween decoration kind of just encapsulated exactly what I love about this track. Like, I don't think it would be the same without that sound running underneath it, really giving the ambiance to it.
Yeah, and I was just going to add about Firelink Shrine. It's so interesting because I actually had a similar interpretation to Mike in terms of, like, I got, like, very, like, I don't know if calm's the right word, but like a reprieve sort of vibes from this. I have not played Dark Souls, so that is probably a big reason why is what it sounds like. But yeah, I got really calm vibes from this. Like somber, I think, is a really good word for it. But yeah, I'm guessing this is like some sort of like rest area in between, like, I guess probably where you recover or save or something like that. Is my guess.
It's your home base between running through the different,
okay.
very dangerous areas. So you all are not wrong. Like, there are absolutely like some respite, some kind of like somber vibes. Oh my gosh, I can speak.
Calm and somber.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Comber. It's comber.
There you go. It is very Convert.
but I think we're hitting it. The idea is that the tension is there, but it's further off, and you have a little bit of room for those calming tones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've said all we can say about those. I mean, really, Hillary, I think you described my a song called "Confusing Melody" that doesn't really have a melody. I'm so glad you introduced that, because I'm like, I didn't have a ton to say about it. It's just like I wanted to hear, because it sets this cool mood, even though there's not a lot to say besides what you said. So thank you.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that brings us to the end here. We had some interesting debuts here on this episode. This was the first time we've ever had Pokemon FireRed and LeafGreen. Dark Souls is not new to Rhythm Encounter, but we have not had a song from the first game since episode 15 in 2013. So
Wow.
It was overdue. And as I mentioned earlier, somehow this is the first time we've ever had a non-arranged song from Ocarina of Time. So technically a debut. So yeah, thanks everyone for your great picks today. This has been so much fun. Coming up next on Rhythm Encounter in 2 weeks, we are doing an episode on woodwinds. For figuring out future episodes, we kind of alternate between like doing internal staff polls and just, going through and deciding what comes next. This one has actually been something we've been trying to get done for a while. So we're just going to do it. I'm excited about it because it's been like an idea for a while. And then after that, we're still figuring out the exact order. We're either doing an episode on Tales, the Tales series, or an Origins, like RPGs that like got us into the genre kind of thing.
And I'm curious, are these songs that like got us interested in game music, or is it music from games that got us into RPGs?
Actually, yeah, it's more about the music. It's like, our first or an early exposure, like really like things that really got us into RPG music. I'm like, oh wow, like kind of opened us up to like what is there. Yeah.
Oh, neat.
Because we've done a written feature on like games, like the games that got us into the genre.
Mm-hmm.
But this is more a music angle of that. Yeah. So if you have thoughts on this, if you want to share some of your Halloween picks with us or anything else, we would love to hear your feedback. You can reach the show and me at music@rpgfan.com. The best way for people to reach you, Mario, is where?
Yeah, on RPG Fan socials. So that'll be Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and Blue Sky. And that'll be RPG Fancom.
All right. How about you, Wes?
You can find me on Twitter at Wes Iliff, or in the Discord as Wes, or anywhere else. You'll see Wes Iliff pop up on various socials. Say hi.
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 Perfect. No notes.
And how about you, Hillary?
Best way to reach me, especially for like Rhythm Encounter related stuff, is hillary@rpgfan.com.
Awesome. Rhythm Encounter, of course, is not the only show on the RPG Fan Podcast Network. We also have Random Encounter and Random Encounter and Retro Encounter. Last week, Random Encounter did a really fun episode because I was on it, so I can say it's fun because I've heard all of it. An episode on Metaphor Fantasio. I don't actually know. And Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. So two fairly big games in the last couple of weeks. So that was our topic. It was a lot of fun to talk about both of those. And Random Encounter posts every other Monday, opposite of us. And then Retro Encounter posts every Thursday. And our episode here is going up right in the middle of Retro Encounter's game journal on Kingdom Hearts 2. A very long time in coming. Oh boy. Solosia, I hope you like this one better than the first game.
Everyone needs to chime in just to see the history being made of Solosi playing another Kingdom Hearts game.
I know, and I'm not even making fun. Like, I understand all the reasons he doesn't like the first one. So I'm like, I know the second one is a better game. It's way better made. Whether it works for him, I don't know. I want it to. Like, I'm not even like the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan, but like I really want him to like at least have gone through that and be like, wow, I don't want him to be like, well, I wasted another 50 hours. So yeah, I'm rooting for him. And then after Kingdom Hearts 2, Retro Encounter is also doing a Halloween episode. So check those out. As Mario mentioned, you can find RPG Fan on most social media as RPG Fan.com. That's what we use on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. And Twitch, actually. We are also on Blue Sky, but we got on there early enough that we just got RPG Fan. All the links to our socials are in the show notes, so check those out, along with links to our Discord. Our website is, of course, rpgfan.com. You'll also find the shop, rpgfan.com/shop. And actually, when this goes up, we should have some new t-shirt options, so check those out. There's some new vintage wash tees that we're introducing. I'm not sure what colors we're going to have exactly, but we're at least going to have some new shades of black.
More options.
Yes, more options for black shirts. But the acid wash black looks really cool, so I'm looking forward to that. I think people will like it. If you enjoyed the show, please review and subscribe wherever it is you listen, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We would appreciate the support. And that's basically our show. We're going to close out with a bonus track as we always do, and today that is from Mario.
Yeah, so I thought a good close to this kind of spooky Halloween episode would be a track without a name, actually. It's been assigned, it's from Mother 3, and it's an unused track that's pretty creepy and unsettling. It's been attributed or been called a Gygas battle track because of sort of the vibe of it. But it technically doesn't have a name. But yeah, it's a very creepy, unsettling song, and I hope you all, I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but I hope you all, I guess I'll say enjoy. For lack of
I don't know
word,
where else to go with that sentence. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
No, thank you for bringing that. After you said that, I was like, oh wow, I'm a little surprised none of us brought Earthbound on it at any point, because there's a lot of picks there. But I liked our lineup, so I'm glad that the series was represented here at least. So.
And now we know we've got stuff for future Halloween episodes.
That's
we
true.
Haven't even touched Earthbound yet.
That's true. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank the three of you for being here. This was so much fun. We're going to close out with this unnamed, unused Mother 3 track, and we will see you in a couple weeks for Woodwinds. Bye, everyone.
Stay spooky.
Yeah, stay spooky.
Stay spooky.
Why is this penguin wearing a striped t-shirt?